Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. This is Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Rockland. As always, if you would like to find out more about the show, you can go online, that place where we all live now, to facepalmamerica.com to find out more, to listen to past episodes, and connect with us on social media. If you live online, as I do and many others do, you will know that there is quite a bit of news today about former President Donald Trump. And with us to discuss this is the host of Around the World with Political...
You don't get it right, Beowulf. It's okay.
I never quite get it right. Around the Political World with John Rothmann. John, welcome to Facepalm America. Thank you for being here, sir.
It's my pleasure. Of course, being around the political world with John Rothmann requires my being with Beowulf Rockland every Monday morning.
It is so nice of you to say, sir. And my goodness, this Monday morning is jam-packed with Trump news. There are not one but two cases going on simultaneously in which he is being prosecuted. My goodness. Where do we start? The appellate court apparently has reduced his fine, which I believe was in the neighborhood of $450 million, just a tad.
$464 million to be precise.
Yes, and a little bit was being added each day, and still is, as I understand it, because of interest, because he hasn't paid it yet. But this amount now has been reduced by the appellate court to $170-some million.
$175 million, and he has 10 days to come up with it, and he said he was going to do it in cash.
Okay, well, I guess there's a Saturday Night Live sketch that I remember in which some presidential spokesperson was saying there was a giant created by a nuclear disaster, and they were asking questions about, like, is the giant 50 feet tall? And he said, no, the giant is not 50 feet tall. And they said, is the giant 100 feet tall? And no comment was the answer. And so that they knew that the giant must have been between 50 and 100 feet tall, created by some horrific nuclear disaster. And so I suppose we now know that Trump has cash on hand somewhere between $170 million and $464 million. He's not comfortable with paying the top amount, but he's okay with paying the lower amount. So this is an interesting development.
You know, it's sort of like my salary range, Beowulf, for appearing on your program. So we'll figure it out.
I suppose so. So he's going to come up with this money, and he is obviously not as wealthy as we think. I was just stunned last week when I heard his expert or someone testifying on behalf saying it just wasn't. It wasn't reasonably possible for him to pay this much money because, my goodness, he would have to sell properties. He would, just like the rest of us, if he were had a fine of this amount, he would have to come up with it by hook or by crook. But somehow he thought that, he's entitled to own the properties that he does, and he wouldn't have to sell them in order to make good legally. And that stunned me.
Yeah, but also it's more important to understand they may reduce this fine, but he is still being held responsible for not revealing or playing with how much he was really worth and what these properties are worth. It's still an offense. And now he has a date. Now, by the way, you and I dread April 15th, income tax day.
Yes.
But Donald Trump is going on trial, they say, on April 15th in the Stormy Daniels case. Now, you and I both know that the evidence is that he paid her off hush money to keep her quiet.
Yeah.
What if the court finds him guilty? Oh, my. I mean, there are a lot of things going on here. Oh, and wait, you forgot Fani Willis.
That's right.
She says she's going ahead, and they're going to hold Trump responsible for trying to tamper with the Georgia election. And wait. We still have Mr. Smith's case dealing with January 6th. And now, I got news for you. Listen, I made a big mistake when I signed on with you. I should have signed on with NBC they might have paid me $300,000 for doing what I'm doing, because that's what they're paying Ronna Romney McDaniel. And, the whole thing is so interesting.
I was not. I mean, to see Ronna McDaniel go from the head of the RNC right onto MSNBC, to me, it doesn't speak well about MSNBC. I mean,
that doesn't speak well about Ronna Romney McDaniel.
Neither of them. No.
I mean, if you listen to her obfuscations when she deals with the question of Donald Trump and the election of 2020, and I mean, it's a disgrace. Her grandfather, my good friend George Romney, if he were alive, would be rolling over in his grave. Oh, wait, something else happened since last you and I talked. Mike Pence announced he won't vote for Donald Trump for president in 2024.
Well, that could well tip the balance in the state of Indiana, John.
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you what it is. It is a fascinating commentary, because if Smith is able to proceed with his case, if blanket immunity is not granted by the Supreme Court to Donald Trump, and they put Mike Pence on the witness stand dealing with January 6th, guess what, Beowulf? He's going to tell the truth. And if Mike Pence tells the truth, Donald Trump is up the creek without a paddle.
Well, if he seems to be in the process of being held to account in a courtroom. That much is good. I hope that means that he will subsequently be held to account at the ballot box, because we know that all of this could essentially go away. I mean, it's horrible to think about it, but if he becomes president of the United States, then is he not essentially held to a different standard?
No, if he becomes president, he will simply do what the Constitution allows, which is the absolute power of pardon. And he will exercise that absolute power of pardon relating to himself and the people he works with. And so these are all part of it. Now, can you imagine? Here he's talking about putting Manafort on to handle the convention in 2024, a man who was a convicted felon. I mean, this is one, and he already granted him a pardon, by the way. I mean, this is mind-boggling. If I were a novelist and I had written this as a novel, I never would have gotten it published, because my agent would have laughed me out of his office.
I know.
I say that because it is so ridiculous. Now, let's boil it all down to what it really means. What it really means is that the American people will have to make a choice over who they want as president of the United States. And forget Biden and forget Trump. Simply talk about the ideologies of these two political parties, these two men. It's going to be fascinating. Now, the real tip-off, Richard Nixon once said to me, the first real judgment you make about a candidate for president is who they choose as their vice presidential running mate. Donald Trump is going to make a choice. By the way, by the time I'm with you again, I believe Bobby Kennedy Jr. will have made his choice of a running mate, and the people he's talking about are clowns. So these are...
I would tend to argue that he falls into that category himself, John.
On this point, I will not argue with you.
Okay,
by the way, the Kennedy family had a gathering on St. Patrick's Day at the White House, and Bobby Kennedy Jr. was not included, and his family made clear that they oppose his candidacy. And so, that's the story. But who will Donald Trump choose? Will it be J.D. Vance of Ohio, who is an election denier? Will it be Elise Stefanik, the number 3 Republican in the House of Representatives, an election denier? Will it be? I mean, your mind is boggled by the thought of what the Republicans are doing. On the other hand, let me say a word about Kamala Harris, who is now really taking the initiative. She's going out on the stump. The Biden campaign is unleashing her for 2 reasons. One, because she's very articulate, but number 2, to build up her presence in the presidential campaign. And that is going to be quite something.
I know you have not been sanguine in the past, John, about the idea, or rather the possibility, of the return in 2024 of the smoke-filled room having any role in determining how the parties might ultimately select their candidates. And I know we've come to the point also that by which both Trump and Biden have nominally secured their nominations for their respective parties. But could you envision a scenario in which it was decided, say, by the Democrats, that Kamala Harris, as opposed to Joe Biden might go at the top of the ticket. I would see that as an invigorating eventuality. What are your thoughts?
Well, it would only happen if Joe Biden takes himself out of the presidential race, in which case Kamala Harris will be the Democratic nominee for president. I give her a lot of credit for her abilities to inspire people. She has a rock solid base of support in the Democratic Party, and I believe she would be a formidable contender. And there will be no challenge to her. Gavin Newsom has said he won't challenge. Governor Whitcomb has said she wouldn't challenge. So I expect that if anything happens to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris will be the Democratic nominee for president. And I think she'll probably win the election because I don't think the American people are prepared to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, and frankly, I think that the American people are not particularly interested in the contest that is lining up before them. I mean, not to say that they are disengaged, but they would rather not have these two particular candidates as a choice between them. I think they would much rather, on either side of the political spectrum, see different candidates and different possibilities put before them. And I think that both parties, certainly the Republican Party, and also I think the Democratic Party, have done a disservice by bringing these two to the fore.
But it's not the parties that bring them to the fore. It is their own decision to run and the fact that they have substantial support in running. You know, political parties have very little power. The only thing a political party can do is to give you a place if you win a nomination on a ticket. That's better than being a third-party candidate. So my sense is that what we have as a choice is because, whether you like it or not, the people have chosen Biden and Trump as the nominees of their respective parties.
Well, you know, I wonder if there were more opportunity. I think that is true among the people who are most like thoroughly dedicated within each particular party, as is demonstrated by the primary contest. But if you look at the American,
that's all you have.
I know that's unfortunate.
You know, if that's all you have, you have a primary contest. There was no one who was formidable enough to run against Joe Biden, and Joe Biden, frankly, an incumbent president. The last incumbent president to be defeated for his party's nomination was Chester Alan Arthur in 1884. If you're an incumbent, you're going to be the nominee. By the way, James G. Blaine beat him. Okay. But as for the question of where this goes with the Republicans, there were people who ran against him. Oh, by the way, to hear the talk that Marco Rubio might be on Trump's short list for vice president. There's one problem. These people, I don't understand these commentators. It's not possible. They're both from the state of Florida. As long as they're both registered to vote in the state of Florida, you can't have two candidates, president and vice president, from the same state. Do you remember back in when George W. Bush was nominated in 2000, Dick Cheney was then a registered voter in Texas. So when he was under consideration for the vice presidency, he went up to Wyoming, re-registered there. That was the tip-off that he was going to be the nominee, the selected nominee by George Bush. So nobody from the same state can run for president and vice president.
I can't possibly see Rubio, like, seriously being considered by Donald Trump, given their past history together. And
wait, be careful. Remember the past history of George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan? Remember the past history, if you will, of candidates for the president, like Hubert Humphrey, for instance, who had been a critic of Lyndon Johnson's in the 1960 presidential campaign.
Yeah.
Ambition should be made of sterner stuff.
Sure.
Is all I can say.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of that is true, but like all the people that you mentioned, were basically rational political actors. And in Donald Trump's case, like, personal loyalty over the long run, like, seems to have like no equal. I mean, it's just a matter of.
Well, it does if you are a complete sycophant, and I